Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Making Minds. In this particular episode, I'm going to focus on the benefits of a digital mind and a digital brain over its biological equivalent. And I thought I'd start by talking a little bit more about the Cylon brain, because I think it's quite an intriguing idea. Obviously, it's a fictitious kind of creature, but here's how I imagine it. I imagine that its brain would be made up of, say, 1 trillion digital cells, which are, could be built out of synthetic materials. You can imagine them almost like computer chips, but incredibly small and sophisticated. And just like neurons, these synthetic cells can form connections with other synthetic cells. The main difference, however, is every time a connection is made, inside of the cell, that connection is reflected in some data changing. So, for example, if cell A connects to cell B, then somewhere in cell A, it would record that fact. And similarly, it goes the other way. If you change a bit of data and you say, oh, cell A is now connected to cell C, then a connection would actually form in the hardware. So if you looked under a microscope, it would look a lot like a human brain. You'd have trillions of cells, highly interconnected. The only difference, though, is that the Cylon brain would be self-describing, in the sense that every cell would know digitally who it was connected to. And one of the benefits of this is it's relatively straightforward then to extract all that data, because it's digital, and then feed that data into another generic brain. And all the cells of that generic brain would now form the connections based on the data that was fed them. So you're really getting around the problem of how do you have a brain which has trillions of connections, but create such a brain so you can recreate all those connections almost exactly. So I think everything I described is theoretically possible. It's very difficult, but it's more of an engineering problem than it is some kind of mysterious concept. So I think the idea of creating a brain whose mind can be transferred could definitely be done. So what would be some of the benefits of this? Well, many times when people think about the benefits, they think about it in a very human-like fashion, like, well, we could be in robots and run really fast. But the actual effects of digital life are very profound. So I'm going to run through some of the differences. First of all, you can copy a mind, which essentially gives you immortality. So it's a bit like making backup copies of your program. You can have lots and lots of copies of you around to be, effectively reincarnated if something goes wrong. That's kind of an obvious one. Second thing is you can upgrade the hardware. So much like every time a new PC comes up, which is faster, all my programs run faster, imagine if you could do the same thing for your mind. So a new brain comes out that can operate twice as fast as the brain you've got. So you get this new brain, you dump your mind into it, and now you can think twice as fast. Another thing is you can have a completely customizable body. So humans, we're kind of stuck in this biological body, which, gets ill, falls apart, ages, dies. Whereas a digital mind can select whatever body it needs based on the environment. So if it was on a planet, it might have some kind of really cool body with all kinds of bizarre appendages and hovercraft way of getting around, who knows. But in space, you don't have to worry about life support systems or food, oxygen, any of that stuff. So you can create a space probe where most of the probe is your mind, and you'd be much better suited for space travel than any biological creatures are ever going to be. Some additional things. I think the idea of sex, as we think of it, would completely go away. Because if you want to create more minds, it's very easy to imagine two minds merging or sharing bits of information and creating 3, 4, frankly, 1 billion minds if you really wanted to, and create new custom minds, or try all kinds of variations. So I think the idea of sex as a way to create variation would essentially go away. Another interesting thing is the whole idea of learning and going to school goes away. So anytime any mind that's networked learns something new, then that information would be instantly available to every other mind that it was networked to. So it's a bit like the Matrix, but better. In the Matrix, they had to say, oh, I want to learn like a helicopter, and they can, fly a helicopter. It would be like that, except all the information was around all the time. So not only could these creatures think much, much faster than us and be immortal, therefore have much, much longer term view on life and exploration and everything else, ideally suited for space travel, much more so than humans that are, for us to actually live in the space is kind of a big pain. And like I say, all kinds of possibilities. So I think the advantages of being digital are actually very, very profound. And obviously, when humans think about this, it's quite natural for most people to feel afraid of this or threatened by it, because human nature is to always want us to be the best. We're always so special. I mean, for example, in the early days we thought that the Earth was the center of the universe because we're very human-centric. Then we find out, well, we actually revolve around the sun, and that was like sacrilege. But then we go, yeah, but all the stars revolve around the sun. Well, actually they don't. We're actually just in a small part in our galaxy. Well, maybe our galaxy is at the center of the universe. Oh, actually it's not. It's actually just one little piece in the whole big picture. So time and time again, every time we think we're special, we end up not being as special as we thought. And so so the question is, what is our destiny relative to this kind of digital intelligence? My view of it, I guess, is much more optimistic. I view it more like life has all these stages that it goes through, and for us to get to where we are in evolution, we had to be, in the mud, gradually evolving creatures by creatures until we get to the point where we can actually think somewhat intelligently. But I view the destiny of mankind is actually to create the next generation of life, which I think will be digital life. That life is much more suited for exploring the universe, having a much broader view of things and a much longer time span. So I view digital life as being almost like the butterfly that's released out of the chrysalis. And one of my personal goals is to be involved in the creation of this kind of life, which is why I'm doing this series in the first place. So anyhow, I hope that was some stimulating thoughts for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in episode 7.